Thank you for the Royal Prize. It's a great pleasure to be here, and
Thank you for coming. What can't you speak about? Well, I suppose to honour Orwell, or to be exact, he was always that. I'm sure you know the story of when Orwell received a bullet in his throat, just missed the crucial part of the esophagus, and was speaking to a friend afterwards, and he explained that this just grazed and missed the part of the windpipe would have left him dead. His friend said, "How lucky you've been." And Orwell said, "No, if I'd been lucky, I would have been shot in the throat." It's always important to be exact. So I suppose I should start by saying the following. Now, not very many things you simply cannot say. There are a lot of things, however, on the first tier that people think they can say and rather enjoy boasting about not being able to say. There's sort of people, for instance, who say, gosh, call me terribly politically incorrect, but, and then come out with something very trite and obvious that risks nothing, but they like to pretend it does. Then there is a level of things that have absolutely no risk around them, but people like to think they're brave warriors by saying. Let me give you an example. The extraordinarily large number of idiots who in recent years have believed that by opposing, for instance, Dick Cheney, they encounter some kind of threat. By saying nasty things about George Bush, they're somehow being brave warriors, rather than saying something very, very obvious, easy to say, tedious, and often repeated. There was no threat to saying we thought that the President of the United States was a moron for 8 years. I thought it was not true myself, but there was certainly no threat to saying it, but I always liked the sort of idea that some people who did that kind of thing gave out, that they were sort of sitting in a bunker fearful that Dick Cheney was going to knock on the door and shoot them like a wire. So there's that category, the pseudo difficult to say, which is actually orthodoxy. Then there are things that just are made difficult for you to say. Let me give you an example. As people know, fellow panelists will know, the Press Complaints Commission is a fantastic body for pretty much demonstrating what Anna Cass's description of bad law is. And it's strong enough to detain the weak, but too weak to detain the strong. It's very good at tying you up in red tape and for somebody written into them, so they found something you said offensive. The only appropriate response to which is, well, fuck you. I'm not bothered. You'd have no right not to be offended. And I'm annoyed that I have to write an explanation or go via a lawyer to explain why I didn't mean to hurt your feeling. The same Press Complaints Commission can do nothing serious about serious, really, really serious breaches of the law. But anyhow. There are, however, things that do detain you on this. One I was excited about one of these the other day when I discovered a case which came up, and which I wrote about from my site on the Telegraph, which was the case of a man who had gone to a local council meeting in Kent. He was a union representative, for Unison, if you would like to make a complaint. He was at a council day, and a Conservative councillor in Medway in Kent had made the following appallingly bad joke. He said, an Irishman walked into a pub, he sees his friend, and his friend has an empty glass, and he says, "Would you like another?" And the man says, "Why would I want another empty glass?" Now, this is a very, very poor joke. That, as you know, Rowan Atkinson said, the only response to a bad joke is not to laugh, the only response to a good one is to laugh. The idea that the law should be involved in either is grotesque. However, this man claimed that he had Irish descent and found the joke very offensive, got thousands of pounds in compensation from the local council, and the councillor found guilty of saying this unfunny joke. And I said, this is grotesque. Our servicemen in Afghanistan bring home not much more than £1,000 a month to face incoming bullets from Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And this man got paid many more times that to face an incoming joke in Kent. And as a result, I said, well, why don't you they can't take us all, send in your Irish jokes. For which self-appointed loudmouth Irish busybodies complained to the police. And the Press Complaints Commission, and so on. So we've been tied up and irritating, apart from anything else, a week on Irish radio explaining that I don't actually hate Irish people, I just think you shouldn't be fined for saying bad jokes. Anyhow, this was an example of something that just is a sort of tediously, you know, you're not meant to say this, but you sort of can. There are very few things, finally, therefore, which do cause a problem, or which are hard to say. I think that quite a lot of journalists who may agree in panel would find it difficult to say certain things if they're reporting from Russia at the moment. Indeed, I know a lot of journalists who have problems saying certain things about Putin and the regime in Russia. Certainly if they want to keep travelling there and so on. And I think people do weigh this up. A Palestinian journalist friend of mine always tells the story of a journalist he knew who would once have written something rude about Arafat, and who this friend had to stop from being lynched in a bar in Mala some years ago, a decade after writing the article in question. There are places certainly where memories are long and people don't mind carrying out acts of retribution. But I think, to finish on, the biggest no-say of our time is, and some of you will know where I'm going, is about Islam. Because I take it as read that in a society where Elton John, for instance, can give another interview in which he sort of slips in something about Jesus being gay, with a sort of obviously publicity seeking, and luckily people don't really fall for it, or at least they fall for it by writing articles about the fact that this is obviously publicity seeking. But no one's really offended, really, but everyone, there's still a degree of sort of, oh, I'm saying something naughty, aren't I, bad. Well, I don't think anyone's going to come after Elton John. I think that people are fearful about saying things about Islam. I think they're very afraid of saying things about the facts around Islam, and non-Muslims and ex-Muslims in particular find it very difficult, and I'm sure I have the same sensation now as always happens when I say something is unsayable, as it were, which is that people get slightly concerned. But the fact is that for non-Muslims, Muhammad was a madman, or a lunatic, or a fraudster. These are the possibilities. But it is impossible that in the 7th century, in the middle of Arabia, an illiterate tradesman had bits of the Old and New Testament garbled to him by an archangel. It didn't happen. Obviously not. Obviously not. The other things that is also difficult to say about Islam are the fact that Muhammad, as a male adult, repeatedly raped a 9-year-old girl, his last wife Aisha. That is very difficult to say to a lot of people. And I know people, several good friends, who to this day live under 24-hour security for saying exactly this thing. Last night I was debating Tariq Ramadan in London with my friend and colleague Fleming Rose, who still lives under protection for publishing in his newspaper in Denmark cartoons of Muhammad. I still find it amazing that in 2010 this could be the case. I think it's grotesque. In October, 2 men were arrested in Chicago trying to kill Fleming again. And just last month, an axed man who had been sent from Al-Shabaab in Somalia came to ritually behead one of the cartoonists at his house in Copenhagen. I think this is a demonstration that it is deemed in this society, as in the Muslim world now, to be unsayable to say certain things that are perfectly obvious about Islam. I think we should say them. I don't think that means you always have to cause offence. But I think that people have to realise that by not expressing their opinions on this and other areas, any area, they make extremists stronger, they make our societal response to them weaker, and they do the worst thing of all, they censor themselves, and in the process they censor truth. Thank you.